Hello everyone, today I want to share with you a story of a single mother, Dieuhan, and her boy Tom. It's a typical day in the life of Dieuhan, a strong, independent single mother. Her life, though filled with challenges, is also full of love, laughter, and the precious moments she shares with her son Tom. But today, something a little different happens. A small but beautiful moment that reminds us all of the power of family and the quiet strength of love. It's late in the afternoon and the doorbell rings at Han's cozy home. Standing outside is Han, a longtime friend of Han's. He's brought a bag of groceries with him, smiling as he rings the doorbell, but something feels off. No one answers. Han and Tom aren't home. Han doesn't know it, but their absence has sparked something in him, a small act of kindness that would soon turn into a memory he would cherish forever. Han enters the house, looking around for a moment. Before deciding to do something unexpected, Han had always been the one to take care of things, to make the house a warm, welcoming space. But today, Han decides to take a different approach. Instead of waiting for Han to return and prepare a meal, he decides to take matters into his own hands. He sets the groceries down on the kitchen counter, takes a deep breath, and starts chopping vegetables, washing the rice, and preparing the meal he knows Han and Tom will love. It's a simple meal, nothing too fancy. Just a comforting dish that reminds him of family, of home, of the bond that unites people, even when life feels unpredictable. As he works in the kitchen, he can't help but think of the challenges Han has faced over the years. Raising a child on her own has never been easy, especially in a world that often fails to understand the complexities of being a single mother. But through it all, Han has managed to stay strong to keep moving forward. And Tom, her bright, curious, and loving son, is a reflection of all that strength. In the few moments he's spent with them, Han has witnessed the deep love between mother and child, a love that transcends any obstacles life may throw their way. While Han is cooking, he's also reflecting on his own life. He's always admired Han's resilience and her ability to remain positive no matter the circumstances. He often wonders how she manages to do it all: work, raise Tom, keep her home tidy, and still have time for the people she cares about. The answer, he realizes, is simple. It's love. It's the kind of love that drives a mother to go above and beyond, to give everything she has for the well-being of her child. As the smell of the cooking food fills the house, Han feels a sense of calm. It's as if he's doing something small but meaningful for Han and Tom. He's not just cooking a meal, he's showing them in his own way that they are not alone. That even though life can be hard, there are people who care. People who are willing to lend a hand no matter the time or place. It was late afternoon when the doorbell rang. Han didn't think much of it. Maybe it was just a neighbor or someone passing by. But when he opened the door, he was stunned to see Long standing there, a ghost from his past. Long wasn't just an old acquaintance. He was someone who had caused Han immense pain. Someone whose actions had left deep scars in his heart. The memories of their falling out came rushing back, the betrayal, the lies, the heartache. Han hadn't expected to see Long again, let alone have him show up at his doorstep. For a moment, the air between them was thick with tension. Han stood frozen, unable to believe his eyes. Long, on the other hand, seemed unbothered, his expression calm. Almost too calm for someone who had once been part of Han's inner circle. He looked at Thon with a mix of curiosity and concern. "Thon, are you doing okay?" Long asked, his voice soft but sincere. The words hung in the air, and Thon's heart raced. How could Long ask him that? How could he pretend everything was fine when it was Long who had made his life hell just a few years ago? Thon's emotions flared. He had never fully healed from the wounds Long had caused. He had struggled with trust, with betrayal, and with the sense of abandonment that Long had left behind. It had taken him a long time to move on from that chapter of his life, to rebuild his world without the person he had once considered a close friend. And now here Long was standing in his kitchen as if nothing had ever happened. "Are you serious?" Thon snapped, his voice laced with anger. "After everything that happened between us, you just show up here and ask if I'm okay. Where were you when I was struggling? Where were you when I needed someone?" Long didn't flinch. Instead, he took a deep breath and met Thon's gaze with unwavering calm. "I know I hurt you, Thon," he said, his voice steady. "And I know it's not easy to forget what happened, but I've come to make things right, to clear up the misunderstandings from all those years ago. I never meant to hurt you." Thon shook his head, his fists clenching at his sides. "You don't get it, Long. You can't just show up after all this time and expect me to forgive you. You ruined everything. I trusted you, and you betrayed me." Long stood his ground, not backing down. "I know, and I regret it every single day. But I'm here now, Thon. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, not yet. But I'm asking for a chance to explain, to help you understand why I did what I did." Thon's heart was racing, a whirlwind of conflicting emotions swirling inside him. He wanted to believe Long, but the pain from the past was still too fresh, too raw. His mind screamed at him to push Long away, to never let him back into his life. But at the same time, there was a part of him, a small part, that longed for closure, that wanted to understand why everything had fallen apart the way it did. Before he could process his thoughts, the anger that had been bubbling inside him for so long erupted. "I don't want to hear it, Long," he shouted. "I don't care about your excuses. I don't care about your explanations. You left me when I needed you most, and now you think you can just waltz back in and everything will be fine. Well, it's not. It's not fine." In a blur of emotion, Thon lunged forward, pushing Long hard enough that he stumbled backwards. Long, caught off guard, lost his balance and fell to the floor. For a moment, everything was silent. Long lay there, stunned by the force of Thon's anger, while Thon stood over him, panting, his chest heaving with fury. "Get out," Thon hissed, his voice filled with contempt. "I don't want to see you again." Long slowly pushed himself up from the floor, wiping dirt from his clothes. There was no anger in his eyes, no resentment. Instead, he looked at Thon with a quiet sadness, the weight of his own regrets pressing down on him. "I understand," Long said softly. "I can't undo what I did, and I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. But I hope someday you'll be able to see things from my side. And when you're ready, I'll be here. I'll always be here, no matter what." With those words, Long turned and walked toward the door, his back straight, his steps slow but resolute. Thon stood in the doorway, watching him leave, his heart still racing, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. As Long stepped outside and disappeared from view, Thon couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness, as if a door had closed on something he couldn't fully understand. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the streets, Dieuhan and her son Tom returned home after a long day. The quiet hum of the evening settled around them as they walked through the door, and that's when Han noticed something unexpected. There in the kitchen was Thand, who was so absorbed in preparing dinner that he didn't even hear them come in. But now, as she stood there, she realized Tom needed to rest. His energy had been spent in the rush of the day, and it was time for him to wind down. Gently, she nudged Tom, her voice soft but firm. "Tom, go upstairs and get some sleep. We'll talk to Thand after you're rested," she said, guiding him to his room. Tom, always obedient and calm, nodded and slowly made his way up the stairs, the promise of a cozy bed waiting for him. Once Tom was settled and the house had quieted down, Han walked back downstairs. The scent of the food was filling the air, and Thand had done his best to make sure everything was just right. The tension from earlier, with its ups and downs, had settled into something more peaceful. A moment of calm in their shared space. She found Thand still busy in the kitchen, but this time she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. The kind of tiredness that came from not just physical labor, but emotional strain too. She smiled softly at him. "Thand, why don't you go upstairs and rest for a bit? I'll finish cooking. Don't worry about a thing." With a reluctant nod, Thand agreed. He left the kitchen and made his way upstairs, leaving Han to finish preparing the meal. She moved with practiced ease, adding the final touches, carefully boiling the vegetables and setting the table with the kind of loving attention that made a house feel like a home. As the meal came together, Han felt a sense of satisfaction. It wasn't just about the food. It was about creating a space for connection, a moment of quiet after the emotional chaos of the day. When the meal was ready, she carried the plates up to the dining room, arranging everything just so. Then she gently called for Thand. "Thand, come on up, it's ready to eat." Han called from the bottom of the stairs. A few minutes later, Thand came down, stretching his arms and letting out a soft sigh. The meal that had been prepared with care sat before them now, an offering of comfort in the simplest form. As they sat down to eat, the tension that had filled the air earlier seemed to melt away, replaced by a quiet sense of peace. The two of them dug in, the conversation flowing easily. It wasn't just about the food or the day's events. It was about everything, the small moments that made their friendship, the shared memories that had brought them here. As they ate, Han found herself sharing stories from the past, laughing at the silly things that had happened, recounting moments of joy and heartache alike. Thand, for his part, opened up as well, telling her about his own struggles and triumphs, the things he had learned, and the things that had shaped him into the person he was today. It was a conversation that had no agenda, no pressure. They simply talked as friends do when the world outside is quiet. The comfort of the moment was in the familiarity of each other's presence, in the shared understanding that no matter what had happened in the past, they were here now together. And for that, they were grateful. The meal was simple, nothing extravagant, but it was perfect. It wasn't about the complexity of the dishes or the ingredients. It was about the care that went into making it, the way the small everyday acts of kindness created a sense of belonging. As they ate, Han and Thane shared pieces of their lives, their hopes, and their dreams. The conversation turned to laughter, to memories of their childhoods, to moments of growth that had shaped who they had become. Though the conversation had slowed, there was a quiet understanding between them. They didn't need to speak to know that whatever happened in the future, they had created something worth holding on to. A bond built not just on words, but on shared experiences, on kindness, on the little moments of connection that made life meaningful. And as the evening wore on, both Han and Than knew that while the past couldn't be changed, the future was still full of possibility. They didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but they were ready to face it together.
Hân và Thành chia sẻ những mảnh ghép cuộc sống, hy vọng và ước mơ của họ. Cuộc trò chuyện chuyển sang tiếng cười, sang những kỷ niệm thời thơ ấu, sang những khoảnh khắc trưởng thành đã hình thành nên con người họ ngày hôm nay. Mặc dù cuộc sống sẽ chậm lại, nhưng có một sự hiểu biết thầm lặng giữa họ, không cần phải nói để biết rằng bất kể điều gì xảy ra trong tương lai, họ đã tạo ra thứ gì đó đáng để nắm giữ, một mối liên kết không chỉ được xây dựng trên lời nói mà còn trên những trải nghiệm chung, trên lòng tốt, trên những khoảnh khắc kết nối nhỏ bé, khiến cuộc sống trở nên có ý nghĩa. Và khi buổi tối trôi qua, cả Hân và Thành đều biết rằng mặc dù quá khứ không thể thay đổi, nhưng trong tương lai vẫn đầy khả năng. Họ không biết ngày mai sẽ mang lại điều gì, nhưng họ đã sẵn sàng đối mặt với nó.